One. Hey, what's up, everyone? We are live, and I'm here with Tino from the Sophisticated Man. How you doing? Nice to have you on the show again.
Absolutely, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, what's new in your world?
Not much, man. Just been busy. Just been churning out content, working, and yeah, man, just ramping up stuff for the new year.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, that's how you go. You gotta just keep busy, just ramping up everything, getting prepared for the end of the year and for the new year. Do you have any see any you got great ideas coming up for next year too?
Oh yeah. I got some really good ideas for the new year. I think this is a year where really just testing myself and challenging myself as a content creator and as a coach. So got some really fun things in the works, and yeah, I'm
Nice.
excited to get them out there.
Well, rock on, cool. But hey, so today we wanted to talk to you about mindsets that women find unattractive because you guys might not be aware of this, but you might be having some of those mindsets and displaying those behaviors and everything, and that could be causing you from having success with women. Would you agree?
I would, I
And
would for sure.
nice. And to start us off with, what would you have to say is like the number one mindset that's unattractive towards that women find unattractive, I should say.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I see this a lot in certain communities where guys get very angry towards women and they're very bitter. You know that it's all women are gold diggers, all women use men, they're deceitful, blah blah blah. And not that that's incorrect. I'm sure that that does exist, but if you go into any kind of interaction with a woman and think this girl's gonna fuck me over, she's gonna do me dirty, and you're very angry and bitter about it, that's going to come across in your communication, and she's going to sense that this guy is something off about him. He doesn't seem very grounded, and it just hurts your chances with anybody really, because no girl wants to get with a guy that has any negative connotations about women. It just doesn't go over very well. So I'd say that's a big one.
Hmm. Well, no, and that's true because I mean, I think if you have those negative attitudes about women, yeah, that's going to show in your interactions, and then it's going to further
Yeah.
your beliefs on that. And that's why it's important just to kind of change that because I mean, I remember watching, when I was first watching some stuff on YouTube, really getting into this back in 2017, maybe 2018. I came across some of that content where they
Yeah.
blame the women and everything, and like they say, women are the problem and not the guy.
Right.
And it rubbed off on me a bit.
hmm Yeah, I mean, you are essentially what you consume. So if that's all the kind of content that you watch or just the kind of media that you consume, that's what you're gonna start thinking and believing, and that's gonna come across in your behaviors and how you carry yourself. Like if you always watch videos and you think all women are gold diggers or you think they're all just scandalous or whatever, and you go out in the real world and you start holding that belief to be true, and when you're talking to a girl and she starts to reject you or she doesn't like what you're saying or something goes wrong, you're gonna say, "Oh, yep, see, I told you, women suck, and this is the reason." And like you're getting that confirmation bias because that's all you're feeding yourself. Um, so it's just not a good look. And if that's the only way that you view women, you're gonna get a lot of negative reactions.
Hmm. Right. Would you say you got stuck up in that, absorbing some bad content and then you had to have that eventually had that awareness saying that yeah, this is bad for me. And you had to like
hmm
kind of get rid of that. You ever go through a period of that like that?
For me, I never had the stage of like hating women or ever really thinking that they were this like evil creature or anything like that. I never really like for me, I never really happened. Um, but I've had coached a couple clients that have been in that mindset where they were a little bit too heavy into like the like hardcore, like some of the hardcore red pill ideologies where some of it could be very extreme. And these guys like really didn't they looked at a woman from a very negative place, and that really affected the way that they interacted with women on a daily basis, and how they attracted women to them. So I've personally never had it, but I've known guys that have started thinking like that. A
Hmm.
couple guys actually, some clients, some people that I was just talking to online, and yeah, they had a lot of trouble kind of coming out of that.
Hmm. Right. And I think it's important to have that awareness because, I realized like a lot of my issues, it wasn't, when I had my awareness, I most of my problems was problems I had to work out for myself that were keeping me from even having success with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is
Totally.
some of the beliefs I had and some of the mindsets like I had about myself and the judgments I've had I felt was holding me back.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to accountability. Like, if you blame somebody else for your problems or you think women are the problem, what's the common denominator? It's you. So what is wrong about you that's creating that unideal situation in your life? Is it your mindset, the way you talk to them, the way you think about them, anything? Like, you gotta take ownership in the way that you approach women and how you view them, because that's going to be reflected in your interactions. So you do have to
Mhm.
look at your own self at some point.
Right. No, that's true, and I think, like, when you kind of have look within and stuff, you can start to kind of work on some of those issues that you need to done. Hire one of us to, like a coach or one of us to kind of help guide you and see what your problems are and what your mindsets are, so that way we can help you, take the action to kind of move past that.
Right. Yeah, you need a coach. Everybody needs a mentor.
Hmm. I mean, and even like when you move past it, you're still like you still have those periods in your life where you kind of fall back into the old way of thinking too.
Hmm.
And then that's when you also again it all boils down to awareness. And that's why, I always stress self-development, and just like mindfulness is very important, like when you're trying to work on anything in your life, because I mean that's like again, it's gonna help you reflect, but when you're repeating those same patterns again, it's going to help you be aware of that so you can get back on track. 'Cause we all, go through ups and downs in our lives. We go have success in a certain area, but then there's things that just push us back, and we forget that we've had those successes and everything.
Hmm. Yeah, awareness is really everything. Because if you're doing the same thing and you're getting the same results and you're expecting something to change, well, that's the definition of insanity. You're pounding your head against the wall, thinking, "All right, I have the same mindset, I have the same approach, I have the same you know, mentality and the way that I go about doing this. Well, why is my result the same?" It's because you're doing the same thing. So the awareness and just kind of like understanding what you're doing or reflecting on the things that you're trying to achieve, it just gives you that um, sense of awareness of what you can actually do to tweak in order to make that result better.
Hmm. Right. No, and that's true. You definitely gotta, like I said, that's very important. And that's something you got to continue to have as you're moving forward on your journey. And like I think sometimes we get so caught up in life that we forget about all that, and it's kind of good to take reflect on things. I don't
Hmm.
know, like when I got out of my last situation with this girl that I was telling you about, like back in October, it caused me to reflect on things and everything because I think it kind of that incident, because it was a learning experience for me, kind of pushed me back and reset it, where I was, and I had to take some time to kind of figure stuff out and everything. And
Hmm.
so like I think we also have those moments too in life where things come up that cause you to do that, reflect, and just kind of figure shit out and just so you can fix that. And again, it reminds you how important mindfulness and awareness is.
Yeah. Yeah, life will show you real quick things that you need to work on or think about. Because I've had a lot of experiences where I was trying to force something or I was trying to really make things the way that I wanted them to be, but the reality was it wasn't going to happen or it wasn't going to go that way. So I had to really like sit back and say, okay, let me just let go for a second. Let me be unattached to what's happening, and what can I do? What is in my control? What can I actually change in this situation? And I think a lot of
Hmm.
guys get focused on what is outside of their control, and that just causes added unnecessary stress because they're thinking of things that they can't even directly influence. So if you're always
Hmm.
focused on that, well, you're going to drive yourself nuts because those are things that you can't directly, you can't do anything about that. So if you just focus on what you can control and be just present with the things that are happening, you set yourself up for a lot more success.
Mhm. Right, exactly. And that's important if, like, you're gonna grow as an individual, and, like, and then again, you're gonna as you grow as an individual, you're gonna become that attractive guy and not that unattractive guy, and it's just all a
Yeah,
growth process.
absolutely.
So what would you say is, number 2 for the unattractive mindsets?
Hmm.
Lack of maybe not being able to lead a woman, not lack of confidence in the self, not loving yourself, like, what do you think?
Hmm. No, I think all of those things are good. Um, in my experience, some of the things that I've heard guys say of just like, oh, well, women only like 6 foot tall guys, or they only like guys who are. I've heard guys say, oh, they only like white guys, or they only like tall,
Oh,
blonde
yeah,
white guys, and shit like that. And I'm just like, you know how limiting that mindset is. Like you really think that
mhm,
own like women only like that kind of guy. It just you're basically taking yourself out of the game before you even
yeah,
give yourself a chance. So yeah,
yeah.
it's a bad one.
I like that one because that's one I struggled with sometimes too. Even when I was going out there talking to women, like that's I'd still think that like, oh, she only
Yeah.
because I don't know. I just think they kind of and I realize a lot of it is just seeing what's in the world around you. And you're not like you because you see that you believe that. You instead of you're allowing the outside world because you're seeing that to hold you back. And you form that judgment on yourself and the woman.
Yeah.
And that's what I've realized.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, guys see that a lot. Maybe it's in movies. They see their favorite, like James Bond, like tall, handsome, like good looking guy, and they think only women like this archetype of guy. But that's just not the truth. If you actually put yourself out there in the world and you start interacting with different women, with different people, you realize um it's a lot more fluid than that. It's not so black and white. Now, is it wrong to say that women like tall guys? Of course not. Like if you're tall, that helps. It definitely makes you more attractive looking. But I've met a lot of tall guys that have no idea how to talk to people, and they're not very social. They can't hold a conversation, that are not very confident. As a result, they don't do well with women. So even if they're tall, that's not the end all be all answer. And I've met short guys that are really, really confident. I mean, I'm only 5'7", but that's never really held me back in terms of attracting women or really attracting anything into my life. My height really has never held me back. So it's just your mindset around it. If you think that that's going to limit you, then it's going to limit you. But if you realize that it's just, it's nothing but in your head, then you can move past that. And if a girl, at the end of the day, if she only likes you for your height, then she's not for you. There's other women out there that aren't that superficial.
Right. No, that's weird because yeah, I that's weird because like you want to like again, and same thing goes for guys. You want to make sure if you only like a girl for her looks and stuff, like
Yeah,
that's not worth it. But yeah, no, there are people out there that are like that, and it's stupid.
definitely. I think
But
it's just
where
a
do you think that
reflection.
comes from, though? Why do you think they only like this one? Like, why do you think like some people are selective like that? Like a guy has to have like all these qualities to him. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I think it's a reflection of your internal belief about yourself. Like if you're a guy that only values a woman for her looks, then what do you as a man have to offer? Is it just your looks? Is it just your status? Is that it? Like I think we all kind of project a lot of the things that we have onto other people or our potential partners. Like with women, they only want a guy who, is really good looking and has a lot of money. Well, what does she offer him? Probably nothing outside of those
Hmm.
monetary, superficial things. So if you're a guy who's still like that and you have the mindset of like, I only want superficial things, look at yourself. Are you living very superficial? Are you very surface level with certain things?
Hmm.
Because a lot of that is a reflection. I think that if you believe that about yourself, that kind of shows up in your reality.
Oh, okay. So so you think that this stems from a belief, and the same would go for women too, right? When they had the same thing, right? This it stems from a belief system and a lack, missing of something, or just like a
Yeah.
a wanting of these certain things.
Hmm. I think so. I mean, women do the same thing where they might want a guy who's really they only want a guy for his money. Like they say like gold diggers and stuff. Well, what does that kind of girl offer? Probably nothing. Probably nothing outside of just money, or she's only good for things that can provide her, she gets provided for, but she doesn't offer anything else in return. She's lacking in any other department. So if that's your main thing that you want in a relationship, if you just want superficial things, well, to me, that kind of says you're more of a superficial person, and that's the only stuff you really value. So it really does come back to, I think, your beliefs about yourself, the values that you hold, and the way that you kind of view a relationship and what that really means.
Hmm. Right, that's true. I just think a lot of the people, yeah, it's just weird. I think some people mostly want superficial things. But I think sometimes too, maybe they want other qualities, but they get so caught up because they don't know who they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they just get caught up in the world and shit around them, and I think they just become forgetful, and then eventually it takes something of just like of maturing to like realize what it is you want to grow past that. A lot of people have a hard time doing that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think as a man, if you don't know who the hell you are, you shouldn't even be dating, honestly. Like I think if you're in that stage where you're trying to figure out who you are and what you're doing, you should be focused on that. That should be your main priority is developing that foundation. Because if you're trying to lead women into your life and show them, how to really be treated and like actually be the masculine role, well, be masculine. Like you have to have that developed in yourself because if
Hmm.
you're not, you're gonna be wasting, number 1, your time and her time because she's eventually gonna get bored of you because you don't have anything to really build from. She's not if you can't you're not inviting a woman into your life if you have nothing going on. What's there to invite her into? So,
Hmm.
you need to have that kind of figured out beforehand, before you even worry about, what kind of girl you can attract.
Hmm. Oh, right. Yeah, most definitely. I think that's important, but I think, like, again, it's just I think a lot of that, too, just comes from, like, you realize that from experience too, you know what I'm saying? Well, you gotta know who you are, but, I mean, you kind of realize your wants from what you qualities you like from experience with them, and that's definitely what I've learned, but, yeah, definitely time to reflect, it's just kind of, like, figure out who you are and, have something going on.
For sure.
Um, so I'd have to say another bad quality would be like a needy mindset. A guy being super needy.
Mhm. Yeah, neediness is a big one. I think that's something a lot of guys find themselves in. And I mean, really to come tie it back to what I was just talking about, like not knowing yourself. When you don't know yourself, you're going to be needy because you're always looking for someone to validate you. And you're looking for women specifically to validate yourself as a man. So if you have that foundation, you know exactly who you are, you're not going to be needy because that, in essence, is neediness, is when you need somebody to feel like you're complete, to feel like you have everything together. But when you don't, when you're already fulfilled on your own, it makes it so much easier. You're not going to come across
Hmm.
as needy because you know exactly who you are, what you stand for, what you're building, and you're not really worried about if a girl likes you or not.
Right. But yeah, because you're kind of focused on you, you're building your life and everything, and and you're just when you're focused on yourself, you're kind of taking everyone else out of the equation and stuff because you're just and it's kind of like they're an invite. But rather, if you're a guy who's not really focusing on himself and like you said, looking for validation, they think that, okay, I need, like, that's true because some people like feel like that's like essential, like they gotta need someone to complete them in life, and I think it's important, like you always talk about, this being learning to be alone, be by yourself and everything,
Hmm.
and just build stuff for you so when you meet someone, you don't get that way. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's where it starts is having that foundation, having that relationship with yourself, so you can eventually bring a person along with you, to add to your life, not to be the source of your fulfillment and the source of your happiness, but to add to it. Because women can, you can find a really good woman, and she can be a great asset to your life, but she's not gonna be the whole thing, and she doesn't wanna be
Mhm.
the whole thing because that's gonna she's gonna sense that neediness, she's gonna sense that you're making everything about her, and it's gonna creep her out. So you do
Mhm.
have to have a level of control when it comes to your desires. Like, she's really attractive, let's say she's really physically beautiful, you wanna talk to her, you wanna see her all the time, you have to control yourself and say, "Alright, well, even though I wanna see her, I have some work to do, I have this to finish, I got my priorities," and then you can invite her along to help you with that, but don't make her above any other goals or anything you're trying to do.
Mhm. Right. And that's discipline in itself, being able because
It
you're
is.
gonna that desire is gonna pop up,
Definitely is.
and that need is gonna pop up, and that's and yes, you gotta learn to have some emotional intelligence and control over that.
Mhm. For sure. Yeah, self-control is key.
I think that's that, and that's I think that's another thing. It like lack of self control is can be a bad mindset, and that's why it's important to have self control, and you kind of I guess I find like again I'm going to say it again. It's all through experiences and stuff, and you kind of know when you're being losing control and stuff, and you got to be able to like put yourself in check next time when you are. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, discipline and self-control are like 2 staples, I think, for being really like a masculine man, and knowing that you're not really a slave to your desires. You're learning from your desires, you're learning from your emotions, but you're not completely, a slave to them. Because I think that's
Hmm.
when you get into trouble, is when you're overly horny, overly sad, overly angry,
Hmm.
whatever it might be, and you let that take control, and you let that lead you. Because that's when they say you're thinking with your, your wrong head. That's what people mean, is you're thinking with your other
Right.
head, you're letting that lead and being like, "Alright, well, I'm just really, horny right now," and that ends up clouding your judgment and clouding your intentions even sometimes. So it's important to just make that distinction and know when that's happening. Because again,
Hmm.
awareness on its own is gonna save you. Because at least as long as you know that that's happening, you can then pull the trigger back and say, "All right, I'm gonna slow down for a second. I
Right.
know this is coming from a bad place," um, and just kind of ground yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, that's something I've been, and we're on the subject here because this is something I've been kind of working on more recently. Is like we're talking about awareness and stuff, and I'm kind of like, you know, kind of trying to become more aware, like of some of the, sometimes I can be too hard on myself. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
If I do something, I sometimes think it's like the end all, or like this is like or maybe I'm like, oh, I feel stupid because I said this or said that, and I realized like can be bad being hard on yourself. And so I'm working on becoming more aware of that and realizing, you just accept the situation for what it is and not to, get too down when shit happens and just, to realize it's a part of life. It's a learning experience and not, just because you made a mistake, and it's not gonna like be the end of the world. You're not gonna be punished. You know what I'm saying?
mhm. Yeah, I mean, I get hard on myself too a lot of times, and I think a lot of dudes have that same issue. But it's also remembering that you're chasing progress, not perfection, and
Hmm.
nobody's perfect. There's never a situation where you're gonna do 100% things right all the time. Like, I still fuck up certain things. I'm
Hmm.
sure you do as well. Like, nobody's gonna be 10 for 10 all the time, like 100%.
Right.
It's just not realistic. So
Exactly. I mean, I
just
even get that.
not be hard.
Yeah, I even get that way at my job sometimes when I make mistakes. I get hard on myself
Yeah.
'cause I had a boss, like, a long time ago who was every time I made a mistake, he would always get all pissed off for that, and I carry that trauma with me, but I
Yeah.
have to realize that, like, this is a different person. This isn't the same person I'm working with right now, and it's a different environment. So again, it all boils down to that awareness and everything.
Mhm.
You have to say to yourself, well, this person is not like this person. Like, you're in a different situation. It will be fine. Don't get too crazy about it.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's just understanding that you're still, you're still learning, and I always say we're just works in progress, and kind of
Hmm.
accepting that and knowing that you're going to make mistakes in the future. You're going to do something that you wish you didn't do, but you just got to learn from it, and you got to evolve and keep moving because um, I don't think there's any professional athlete, for example, that makes 100% of their shots, and there's nothing they can improve on them. They definitely make mistakes, and that's why they're still great.
Right.
Guys like Tom Brady, like, for example, he's still playing in the NFL. I mean, you can say what you want about him and his wife and his situation right now, but just the fact that he's been at the top of his game for as long as he has, 20 plus years, he's just religious when it comes to chasing progression, and he knows he ain't perfect, but he's always trying to improve. And I'm a Steelers fan, so I hate Tom Brady, but I respect the fact that this dude has been just the definition of consistency.
And that's a trending topic now on YouTube, Tom
It
Brady.
sure
But
is.
like, what's the situation with that? What's the content behind that?
Him and his wife.
Yeah.
Apparently well, they're getting a divorce. That's kind of like the main, like, everybody knows about that. I think the main thing that people are talking about now is how she all of a sudden has a new boyfriend, like within a couple weeks of them breaking off. And I
Hmm.
think people are talking about that is like the fact that she's with someone else already and just the whole thing and him being in the career, choosing that over her and whatnot. There's a whole bunch of stuff I've seen on YouTube.
Hmm. Okay. Oh, well, I'll have to check it. I don't really follow too much of that stuff. I just kind of, like I said, I don't know. I don't know why I don't. I don't get into that. Well, and honestly, I'm not a football fan, so
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
I'm a baseball and basketball person. That's my thing right there.
Mhm.
But we're getting off topic now. So, refresh my memory. What were we last talking about before we got into Tom Brady?
Just like being hard on yourself. We're talking about like
Yeah,
being
that's right.
learning from your mistakes and not expecting to be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can be a pro at anything, and like, you make mistakes. And I'm working on kind of accepting that instead of judging myself, for that, because, like I said, that I still from time to time have that, and I hate that, and I don't need to do that because it affects it's a waste of energy for me to do that.
Mhm.
And I should be having more positive energy, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I just gotta just like say, hey, don't get so down on yourself. Fuck it. Move up, asshole. Give myself a kick and punch in the head or something. I wouldn't punch myself or a kick in the ass or something.
Mhm. Yeah, and sometimes you have to. You have to be your biggest cheerleader, but also your biggest critic at the same time, which is a very delicate balance, but I think both is necessary if you really want to, make some strides in your development and in your life. You have to be hard on yourself. You have to tell yourself, "Hey, get out of bed, you motherfucker. Like, it's don't be lazy today. Like, put your ego to the side and just get out and make it happen." But at the same time, you do wanna be, praising yourself and giving yourself some pats on the back and saying, "Hey, I did a good job today. I'm proud of myself. I
Hmm.
did this." Equally, both are very equally as important. I would say that most guys forget to do the other part where they forget to give themselves praise, and I
Yeah,
definitely have
exactly.
before too.
Yeah, and I just did a video on gratitude about that, the importance of
Yeah.
gratitude, because, like, again, you forget all that shit, and that's the
Mhm.
time just to kind of go back and just think about all the stuff you have in life and everything, and say, hey, you got it made. Don't be so harsh on yourself.
Yeah.
And even like when you get into certain situations, in any when it comes to your job or it comes to like friendships, maybe your business and things aren't going right. It's important to kind of go back and reflect on the good stuff that you had from that, just so you're not hard on yourself.
Yeah. 100%. You gotta take the good with the bad.
Hmm. And a lot of people forget that. It's just weird because, like, again, we're all on autopilot and we just kind of forget that stuff. But again, it all boils down to awareness.
Mhm. Yeah, it definitely does.
That's why you got to just kind of again be aware.
Hmm. Yeah, and it takes practice. I think that's another piece of it is you're not just going to build awareness just because you want to. You have to really practice being aware. Not enough people
Mhm,
even do that. That's why I promote things like meditation. I promote things like going on walks by yourself, learning to really understand yourself, being reflective. It takes work to be aware. You're not just going to do it because you're just thinking about being aware and you just all of a sudden you are. You have to really practice it and put it into action so you can
mhm,
you can develop that muscle. It's like a muscle in the gym. It's going to build slowly over time. Eventually, you're going to get it to the point where you could take on a lot more resistance and you notice a lot more things because your awareness is so big. So
mhm.
it does take practice.
Right. No, that's true. Yeah, I find that, journaling is I'm gonna start journaling and stuff. I think
Yeah.
that would be a good thing. But yeah, but definitely, put it something in your calendar and stuff that like at least
Yep.
like I always do my gratitude thing first thing in the morning while I'm drinking my coffee. That's the best time to do it. I can,
Hmm.
relax, not much is going on. At least I can put like 5, 10 minutes, even if I'm in a rush, I can put some time into it. And that's important to have. And
Yep.
uh, because I think again, just again helps you realize that you have stuff. You're gonna and then not to be forgetful. Then it's just gonna help you get through the day. And then say shit comes up during the day, you can kind of figure again get back into that gratitude exercise and just like focus on that that awareness and stuff too. Again,
Mhm.
it is practice because but the more practice you put into it, things it will become a habit.
Yep. Yeah, journaling and gratitudes, it's a game changer. So I highly recommend those things.
Hmm. Okay, moving on. So, what would you say is another unattractive quality?
Um, I would say, mm, kind of just viewing women. It kind of ties to the first one we talked about, but just viewing women as like sex objects and kind of just seeing them as like nothing but just the next person that you're gonna have sex with, and just not really valuing anything else besides that. Kind of just looking at them as a very physical person, but not looking at their personality, at their mindset, their values, their beliefs. Just solely looking, from a very egotistical place. I think that gets you into trouble because well, number one, I think you're going to attract women like that who are also very superficial and just want you for your looks. But you might miss out on a really great opportunity with a good woman because you're just focused on, hitting it and quitting it. And you're not looking at any depth when it comes to the person. So I think that's a big one.
Mhm. So you're probably saying like, okay, you go meet a girl and stuff, and then like you just even though you feel there's no connection, you just the guy just wants a sex and that's it, right? Doesn't focus on a connection and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, no,
Yeah.
that's good. Like I think I mean, yeah, we want sex, but I think it's important to like at least be able to form a connection with someone first to see if that, because I think I don't know, like because it just like again, I've learned this from my experiences, but like just the ones girls who I've had like connections with, like they ended up being cool girls and stuff. I valued more than about them than just the sex and stuff. They had a lot more cool traits and I brought them into like my social circle as well because they had the personality for it. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it gives more variety. When you can have a connection with someone. I think like yeah, first yeah, again we all get caught up in just sex. We don't think about that, but like no, that is definitely important because like besides you wouldn't want to could be you can like have like sex with someone who you can feel like you vibe with, like there's gotta be more to them. Like I think it like I don't know, I've never had that happen before.
Mm. Yeah. Never like had like hooked up with a girl and didn't feel like a connection.
Right. No, I always felt like I had to have some sort of connection. I knew
Right.
people though, that's all they focused on. They had a one
Yeah.
track mind. And I'm a people
Yeah.
person, so I had to look for other stuff, qualities in a person.
Hmm. Yeah, I've done that, unfortunately. I think I did it a couple times when I was younger. Like, I would just hook up with somebody because I was like, well, I was horny and I was lonely and I just broke up with my girlfriend, or she broke up with me actually. And I was just really like in my emotions, and I was just hooking up with someone just because it was like someone to hook up with. And I
Mhm.
know that even in culture right now, that's really popular to do. Like, hookup culture is like crazy popular. Just like hook up with whoever because you can and because no consequences. Kind of the same thing. Like, you're just hooking up with someone because you want to, as opposed to actually like noticing if there's actually a vibe there, if it's even a connection. You're
Right.
just looking at somebody just because they're they're breathing and they have a heartbeat. You know, it's like very very superficial things. And it's very empty. I'll tell you from
Mhm.
my experience. Like, I've done that and I felt absolutely nothing for the girl, and I felt nothing afterwards when I was done. I was like, "This is like it's like pointless," and it's very unfulfilling. You don't really feel like usually when you have sex with a girl that you're really digging and you guys are really into each other, it's an equal exchange of value. You feel really good about yourself.
Mhm.
When that isn't there, there's just a lack of, like, substance. You feel pretty hollow about yourself. It's just like, "Wow, I just did something that I instantly regret and, wish I didn't do with this girl." So it's not something that I recommend, even if she is really attractive, like, physically, if she's really hot, but there isn't any kind of, like, mental connection. There's no kind of alignment on values and what you guys talk about. There's no vibe. It doesn't matter because it's at the end of the day, you're just looking at it as an act instead of something that actually creates a
Yeah.
connection.
And again, you made up an interesting point. Just looking out of desperation again goes back to that neediness that
Yep.
we were talking about earlier.
Mhm. 100%. A lot of guys do that because they think, "Well, if I'm not getting laid with who I want, I'm just gonna get laid, period, because I have to get laid tonight." And it's like, that's just coming from neediness and desperation. I think when you're a man that can, um be disciplined enough to be like, "You know what? I can have a fun time tonight without having sex. I'm still okay with it." I think then you really start to realize that you get a lot more opportunities because you're not so tied to something. You're just there to have fun. You're there to be a positive source of good energy.
Right.
And I think that's the difference in being like a guy that really can vibe well with people.
Mhm. Right. No, that's true. I like that. And again, like, seeing you can even when you're going through that, you get dumped or you're going through a breakup, you use as a guy, you go back and kind of if you got stuff going on, you focus on that. I remember you had
Mhm.
mentioned when you were getting out, you got out something, you started just doing your content again. You're just really kicking ass with it,
Mhm.
and that shows right there that you have the discipline to and self control not to get into a situation like that, and you
Yeah.
have standards for yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, it comes down to standards too, and knowing what you're trying to do. Like, if you're focused on something, that's going to be your main priority. Like, if you're trying to get really in good shape, you're trying to get a good job, get your money up, you're trying to really like do things and move along life. That's going to always be your number one priority. So some guys, they just use those other things as distractions, whether it is casual sex with a random person that they don't care about, or they take drugs, maybe they drink alcohol. Anybody can use certain things as a vice, to get you distracted and pull you away from the things you're really trying to do. But all that stuff is really a distraction and things that delay your progress even further. So you have to really go through a period of time where you give yourself space. And I think we talked about this on the last one of when you're going through a breakup or you're in a rut right now, maybe you're not seeing a bunch of women. You have to be okay with that. And you have to honestly like let yourself go through the emotions. Maybe you're lonely, maybe you're sad. Like, don't hide that and mask that by just going and drinking and doing all these different things because that's somehow making you feel better. You're going to feel worse in the long run. It's not actually solving anything. Um,
Mhm.
Actually getting in touch with yourself and having goals and having things that you're working towards
Mhm.
and being focused, that's what's going to really help you move on and feel like you're progressing.
Mhm. No, and I like that. That's the perfect mindset to have, and and that, and like that really you can focus on yourself and kind of reflect on how you're feeling, your thoughts, and your process. You process all that, and then it helps you. I think you reach another level in your maturity and everything as well as a guy.
Absolutely.
That's what I have realized lately, and it's really cool because and it's kind of like I'm looking at things in life differently now.
Yeah.
And you just when you have time to reflect and stuff, and no, I always liked just kind of going out by myself sometimes too, because that just gives me a chance just to kind of take a break from it all and relax and just think things and figure out where I'm going next. When it just makes it a lot more exciting and interesting. And I don't know, like I said, I'm gonna be moving out of my old apartment like in the middle of next month. And I'm excited because I feel like it's like a new change that's coming up now,
Mhm.
and I'm excited for that. And
Yeah.
I think like in this kind of just change of all the things that I've been through during this year and everything, things. So it's like a new chapter for me coming up.
Yeah. That's another piece of the equation too, is like when we're talking about variety, change is important, and change is something that is always going to be happening. You can't really delay change. Well, you could delay change, but you can't avoid change because it's going to happen. Um, and as a man, like, you have to really take that stuff head on and understand that if it is changing, are you going to be changing in a positive way or a negative way? So that's always something that's going to help us. Like, it could changing up your environments, changing up your mindsets, changing up your um the way you do things, like, all that stuff is going to help, I think, expedite the process of becoming more successful in really anything you do.
Hmm.
I notice anytime I travel, for example, like if I'm going to a business event or a networking event or a conference, just that change in environment in like another city or another state, you just feel a different type of energy, and you get a different type of a vibe just being around people that are like-minded or just think differently than you even. It just gives you more of a spark and more of a, more motivation, I think, to change up your own approach and kind of make things, move things forward. So it's always good to be in some type of change.
Hmm. Right. And sometimes when things are changing and get a little scary at first, because you're used to certainty and everything, and
Sure.
when but it's your job to kind of got to ride through all that and realize that it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the path, I've said this before too, but the path to certainty is through uncertainty. Like, you're only going to find out what to do by knowing what not to do. So even if it is scary, kind of moving through that and facing the fear head on, being courageous, and understanding that you're going to be okay on the other side, and
Hmm.
you're going to learn a lot more. You're going to be a lot more wise. You're going to be a lot more experienced on the other side. Um, so change is a really good thing. I think a lot of people look at it negatively, but change is for the better, as long as you do it for the right reasons.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, that's true. And yeah, you want to make sure you're getting yourself into a good situation and not a bad one.
For sure.
So yeah, any final thoughts before we wrap up the show here? I had a little
A little brain fart.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, as far as final thoughts go, I think just understanding that I like what we talked about with awareness, and just knowing that the more aware that you are of yourself and the people that you're around and who you interact with, the better off you'll be. So take time to work on your awareness, take time to be by yourself, take time to work on, your mindset and the things you're trying to do. Cause it's worth it. If you're noticing you're not getting the results that you want, you're noticing you're not maybe progressing in business, relationships, career, anything like that, look at yourself, look at what you can change, find out what's in your control. But all that starts by being aware of it. So be aware of
Right,
the things
exactly.
that are happening, build that awareness muscle, because now you'll have the power to change what you want to change ultimately. But if you don't know what's going on, it's going to be hard to change.
So what you're saying too is you got to take responsibility for making that change in your life once you have that awareness, and
Absolutely.
you got to take the right um, action and steps to get you to where you want to be. So, like, I would say when I realized when I wanted to make my change back in 2018, I remember I said, "Well, how? Okay, I want to become more social. I want to, talk to girls. I want to get business stuff. How am I going to do this again?" So my action was I sought out a mentor, and talked to the mentor. He gave me how should I say? He gave me a list of actions to take, and I went out there and made it happen.
Yeah, that's the way, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, you're responsible for that change. I'm actually going to do a video on responsibility this week.
Yeah, that's facts.
But that's true. You got to be responsible for that and just make the change. And again, become aware. If you guys have been getting to back to the topic of this video, if you guys have these unattractive qualities, become aware of that and know what you can do better next time and how you can change those mindsets you have so you can have those attractive mindsets that women love. And again, it all starts with you becoming aware of that and then taking the responsibility to make the change in your life.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you for coming on. I got a chess game. I got to meet someone up for a game of chess in
Nice.
a minute. So I wanted to catch up with you more afterwards. But yeah, well, definitely we'll try to do one more show before the end of the year. I think for 2 weeks from now, it'd be December. So maybe we'll try to get back on December, and that'll be the last show for the year because I will be moving and then going home for the holidays. And we'll start back up next year with the change and killer content that will help people level up in life and get to the next level.
Sounds good to me, man.
Rock on. Well, thanks for coming on. And where can my viewers find you?
Yeah, if you just search up The Sophisticated Man, I'm on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
Rock on, man. And yeah, guys, be sure to go to my website, commandyourconfidence.com, and where you can purchase the ebook. If you want one-on-one coaching on mindfulness, dating, stuff like that, feel free to check it out. And if you like this video, be sure to share it and give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And we will be back in a few weeks. And rock on. Until then, take control of your life, command your fucking confidence, and kick ass. Bye.